Hey everyone, it's Julian. Today you requested it, and I'm going to be showing you how to make modern hard groove techno. You know, Alarico, Rene Wise, sort of like Setaoc bass style, all that kind of stuff, and a whole lot more artists. As usual, you can get the full project files, samples, MIDI, presets, everything from this video is available at the top of the description on my website. This is a really awesome template for this stuff, and this is something you can do right now, today, to make the best music of your life. Links at the top of the description. Thank you so much for the support, guys. And let's dive in. Alright, so we're at 140. For this stuff, you actually want to go a bit faster. You know, there are some of these tracks that are a bit slower, but I think like 140 to 150, anywhere between there is good to get that really like hard groove. We got a side chain, right? Just like a little tiny click. We've got this 909 kick and rumble. So this is all drum machine sounds. Right? So right off the bat, you know, it's just a good high quality 909 kick, turned up, not processed at all. It's just like, again, turning that up and getting it right on top of the mix like that. Then we have the rumble. So this rumble is not just a normal, like, you know, taking the kick and just adding a little bit of reverb and distortion to it or something like that. This is, you know, really creating a groove with the rumble and using multiple elements that are playing off of each other to create that. But listen to what you get. Right? It's so much more rich and it adds a lot. And the thing is, when you try to make just like a regular rumble, like I said, like just, you know, quarter note kick going into a reverb and distortion for these tracks, you're going to be kind of wondering why it's not quite sounding like the pros. Because a lot of the pros, like almost every track I was listening to in reference for this video, they all have this, like a rumble that's not just like, but it's actually like moving. And I'm going to show you how to get that. It's not actually that hard. But basically what we're doing here, you can hear 3 layers. So we got a 909 tom. I'll turn off all the processing up here. It's like this groove, right? So it's a 909 tom, and then an 808 tom. And you can hear they play off of each other, like these two. Right? And then there's this one, which is a kick with a high pass filter on it. And that just kind of fills in a little bit of like groove there. Right? And then what's happening is they're going into this rack here, which is basically like, it is actually a standard reverb rumble, but because we're putting this into it, this whole like groove, and it's not just like a, like I said, like a quarter note kick, it just adds a nice kind of resonance and kind of like that bass sound that you want. So basically, we have one chain in here, which is just dry. So you're getting the dry signal, but then it's being blended with this. This is the rumble. So basically, the secret to this is you want a really short reverb, but short decay time and short size, because if it gets too long, you kind of lose that groove, right? Like you're just trying to add a bit of like resonance to this, you know, or like some room. You're not really trying to make it this long, drawn out thing because you want to keep the groove. So we're just keeping that short, going into an amp to make it really fat and distorted, and then we're low passing it. So this is before. It's literally just meant to just make it like kind of sound like it's in this crunchy room, and then low pass it. And then that whole thing, so I'll close that so you can kind of see. So after that, we've got just an EQ, doing a low cut at 30 hertz, right? Just cutting out the bass frequencies that you can't really hear. And also doing a high cut. Because you want to have all this groove going on, and then it's just in this tiny kind of range in the lows. Then we have this being sidechain. And there's the long groove. And I really put a lot of time into showing that because you really do need to know how to do that. And I think that's a lot more of what you're hearing than you realize. Like once you get that, all this other stuff will come a lot faster. But you do have to put some time into that right off the bat. Then we have the drums. So it starts up here, which is like main hi-hat, right? And we have a shaker, which is sidechain. And then we have another shaker over top of that. So the way I made this is actually like some vinyl noise. Like I'll play you the original sample. And you can see I just made it into this little like short hit using the amplitude envelope here. And then there's a low pass filter, which is like opening up at quarter notes like that, you can see. And then we have some delay, a bit of distortion, and then a high pass. And it's being sidechained. And you can hear this adds like a nice kind of groove to the hi-hats. And it's a great way to use, you know, like something that really isn't a drum. It's like this noise. And kind of synthesize your own drum out of that. So it's a really good technique for this style. We also have nice like 909 rim shot. I have this as well. So this is actually the Max for Live drum synth, the cymbal one, right? I made the sound, I just sat here and just tweaked it until it sounded cool. But what's really happening with this, it's a pretty easy sound to make. Like I said, you just kind of play around with this. But what I did is it's playing a polyrhythm. So what's happening is it's hitting here. And see how it's like if I make this, I'll put this on like a operator so you can hear it really quick. Here, that's kind of bouncing off of the hi-hat and the kick. So that's what that does. And what's happening is it's adding this like crazy rhythm in the background of the track that you're not even super noticing, but it's adding so much groove. And what's happening is that's got a low pass filter, which is opening and closing with this LFO here, so that gives it like some movement and kind of brings it to life. I've got a high pass on that, and it's being sidechained. Then we have this drum rack, which is adding a lot. Like if I play you the whole drums, this is giving you all that nice textured mid-range percussion. And what it is it's these 3 percussion samples inside of a drum rack. Pretty simple, actually. Right? And they're just playing that little rhythm, and then there's some delay. A bit of pedal, which you can hear is really good because it adds that like mid-range to it. And then a high-pass filter. And that can just really fill in some texture. We got a bit of noise, just sidechain as well in this group, and I'll show you why in a moment. And then we have these 2 drum racks. Which are all these drum synth sounds that I kind of tweaked a little bit. You can see I distorted these. And this one, I tweaked these sounds a bit as well. And those are just adding some background percussion. And you can hear it's not so like rapid fire. It's just some stuff that just kind of comes in and then stops and starts. So then on the whole drum group there, what's happening is we have this saturator. So this is why I put all of this into one group, is because basically here's without the saturator. And then with it. So what's happening here is this is on medium curve. It's a bit heavier setting than what the default is. So when you set it to that, this is going to start crunching all of these together a little bit. But then you can see it's just on 25% wet. We're not actually like hearing that much of this. Because if you just like all the way up, that's too much. Your track's going to sound too crunchy. No label's going to want to sign it. It's going to be a mess. But if you blend this in there, what's happening there is all this stuff is getting crunched together. Like the highs and the mids and even like the stuff in between. And some of the stuff that's even a little bit in the lows. All those frequencies hitting the saturator at once is kind of making them like crunch together, right? And also gluing it all together. Especially like stuff like this, like how this is coming through against like this. And you're getting like more and less of it into the saturator. So that's a really good tip for this, and it'll give your drums a more even texture. So then we have the synths. Now, I'm showing you these all at once because this is really a case where, you need these to all work together. It's not just like kind of all doing different stuff. They're all actually kind of similar sounds, low-key. But what it's doing is each element is contributing to this groove in its own way. It's not just like 5 synths, right? So it really starts here with these 3 in the middle. So what's happening here is you can hear 3 different synths playing at 3 separate times and creating one groove. Right? So it starts with these 2 little like stabs. You can see this first one is just playing these chords. All these are is just G sharp and A though, like 2 notes that are right next to each other. So you get that like kind of evil. And then this one is using the same notes as well, you can see. Right, it's just creating these little stab chords with these like evil sounding half step chords. And then what's happening is we got this operator. This is just a saw wave, a little bit of a sine wave, and a little bit of another one. All at different octaves, a bit of detune. We got a low pass filter with an envelope. And then actually just a high pass filter on that. Right, and then this one is kind of like a similar, like the way I made this was actually by duplicating that and just tweaking it a bit. Which is a good way to make stabs that will fit together that aren't like just exactly the same thing. But this is a square wave with a bit of FM. Got a band pass with an envelope, echo. Pedal is really good for making these more like textured. And just making it not just like a dry square wave. And then we have this third stab in the... So this is actually this like long recording I did with the guitar actually with the pedal board. Like this. With the mood and the blooper. Shout out to Chase Bliss if you're watching this. But yeah, you can hear that over there. So basically what I did is I just selected a chunk of that, and then what you can do is bring it into Ableton here like this. And let's say you want to do like this part over here. Right? You get like that, find it. And then warp it, and once you warp it, you can't do this until you warp, but once you do, you can do slice in the MIDI track. I did half note, and then it just grabbed a bunch of chops from that. So I basically just took that, and then I found a few that sounded really nice, like just these 3 basically. And kind of created a groove, because there's a lot more in here that were just... you could use these, kind of sounds like dial-up sounds. But it didn't quite really fit as well as those did. And then, like I said, from there it's just having the 3 different synths. And it's all that call and response where they're not playing at exactly the same time, but they all fit together to create one thing. So then we have this art pad. So this is super like uneasy, dark techno, right? This is also the same thing where it's those chords where it's just G sharp and A across different octaves, creating that like evil sounding half step chord. And then what's happening here is it's this operator patch where we just got some sine waves doing FM, kind of creating this like organ sound, right? Like it's literally just that. If I play it with the kick, like a pretty simple techno groove, right? We got a low pass filter on that also with an envelope. And then we just have filter delay, which is what really turns this into a pad, right? You can see I've got like the delay is turned up louder than the main dry signal. So it just washes it out, and it gives it a lot of rhythm too, because it's like 3 different delays playing off of each other. And then after that, we have a low pass. And what's happening is that's got this LFO, which is opening every 2 bars. So it's just like slow building. Plus there's a high pass at the end. But then what happens is you get this like slow building pad. And it really helps kind of carry that groove along. And then the last thing down here are these 2 FX samples. So those kind of just like backups to the groove. If you add these underneath all that, I think it can really add some texture, and it kind of fills that in and makes it feel a little bit more alive. It kind of pulls it through. It's just like a nice little touch on top of all that. That's just going through a high pass filter. And yeah, so that's going to be it for this one, guys. I hope you enjoyed. As always, make sure to like this video as well as subscribe. And let me know what you think of this video in the comments. Like I said in the beginning, you can get this full project file, samples, MIDI, presets, everything like that from this video is available at the top of the description. And that is the best thing you can do today to make the best music of your life. Take your tracks to the next level. Thank you so much for the support, everybody. Enjoy, and I'll see you tomorrow with another video.